Have you ever heard the saying, you are what you think? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I think we've all heard the saying, you are what you eat. But I think there's a lot of truth to also saying, oftentimes, you are what you think. So if I'm a teacher, let's say a history teacher or a math teacher, science, and what is it that I'm having my students think about? How exactly does students thinking about communication and collaboration grow communication and collaboration out? And sometimes it's definitely going to be the content, but how often am I having them thinking about what they're learning related to the soft skills, sometimes also called the 21st century skills, sometimes also referred to, of course, as the 5 C's: communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and most importantly, compassion. Well, I think it's very important to give students time to think about the 5 C's and how they're growing in their own 5 C's. I've shared how when I deliver a PBL or project based learning, I have 5 steps: research, revision, recording, recital, and then finally reflection. In that reflection phase, I encourage students to reflect upon their 5 C's. And not only the 5 C's that they're learning in school, let's say if they're in middle school, but also how those 5 C's can apply to their dream job. So as I kind of think about their future, even if they can't nail down exactly what it is that they want to do in the future, I think if you give students the time to think about it, they can probably guess, yeah, I can see how communication could be used in my future career, collaboration, creativity, and so forth. And so during this reflection opportunity, I've used Pear Deck as a tool to allow students to metacognitively think and reflect. So here's an example of the slide that you're seeing. And then in the Pear Deck system, that's a system where students are able to type responses. The teacher is able to see responses, and they would complete the sentence starter. I was able to demonstrate communication on this project and students wrote a number of great things as it related to communication. I had some students who, on my last project, grew in their communication by the way that they asked their teammates for help and advocated for themselves. I had other students talk about how they grew in their communication by making themselves available to help other group members. I heard others also talk about how they were able to grow their communication by the way they used their PV legs, their poise, voice, life, eye contact gestures, as they created their screencast of their work. The project happened to be Where Does Democracy Come From Anywhere? And they're tracing the history of democracy. And the same for collaboration here. So continuing on with these discussions, how did you grow in your collaboration? And the students are writing, I was able to demonstrate collaboration by, and then students are responding things like getting feedback from my peers, sharing my thoughts, ideas with others, asking for help and constructive feedback, sharing about my progress, asking for the progress of my teammates and supporting them where it is that they need help. So they're talking and thinking about the collaboration. Of course, once they do share with me where they are collaborating on Pear Deck, I can see their responses. So this is different than if I call on a student in class and the student also feels the additional pressure of everyone else looking at them, right? Sometimes that feeling of everyone's looking at me is what's going to be a barrier to thoughts being shared out or even thoughts even happening, because once again, that prefrontal cortex is being developed. And when students are feeling nervous or anxious, it's that fight or flight, not the deeper cognitive thinking that's happening, right? But on Pear Deck, at least they know that no one can see their answers even right away. So it's just the teacher that's looking. So they're putting their responses there. But of course, I can also follow up afterwards by saying, oh, Johnny, what do you mean by that? How were you able to connect with your team members? How did you do this? How did you do that? And it creates a discussion and a mentor dialogue, you could say, to collaboration. And of course, we can continue down the line with critical thinking, creativity, and compassion. So this takes time to do in a class period. So as a teacher, sometimes there's this pressure, right, to move from content to content to content because there's so much to cover. But then we forget that side by side, what we want to do is not just the content, but also the five C's, the soft skills, right? Which we know that they're going to need in high school, which we know that they're going to need in college, and of course, what we know that they're going to need in life, that they have those skills and are able to utilize that. So once again, how do we give? How do we grow this? How do we grow the five C's in our students? How about giving our students an opportunity to think about it? This is Dr. Jeff from Ed Family signing out. Oh, and by the way, if you took something good away from any of our Ed Family content that's out there on YouTube, we're growing the channel. We have about 88 subscribers. When we hit 100 subscribers, I can actually have a URL, which you could probably remember. So thank you. If you are listening and not subscribed, please press that subscribe and let's get to that 100 mark. This is Dr. Jeff signing out.